The following is a conversation between Matías De Stefano, referred to as me, and his higher self, referred to as I am. The subject is the emotional aspect of the third eye chakra in Scorpio, and is dated 13 November 2020. Me. Today is Friday the 13th, one of those days that people consider unlucky. What is special about this day? I am nothing. Only that it coexists as a collective code of bad luck. Me, what is luck? I am. Luck comes from the word sortis, which means a lot of land, that is, a plot to plant. In the division of land in the Roman Empire, the draw or lottery was precisely to distribute lots of land for planting, and not all of them are good for crops, so everything depended on chance. In English, the term luck originates from gallucki, from the Franco-German language meaning fortune, that is, the wealth that one could accumulate under lock and key, connected to the term lock, which is to be closed. Me. And what does this term have to do with Friday the 13th? I am. This date is related to the Christian world. First of all, according to Christian tradition, Jesus was crucified on a Friday, so the weight of his death before sinners falls on Friday. On the other hand, what marked Friday the 13th as a tragic day was due to the fact that precisely on a day like today, but in October 1307, the last Templars were assassinated at the hands of Pope Clement V and King Philip IV of France. The situation was, basically, that the Crusader Knights, during the Crusades in the Holy Land around the year 1100, discovered inside a temple the hidden secrets of the history of Jesus Christ that would change the vision of the Church. So they decided to create a secret brotherhood to protect this knowledge, and they called themselves the Knights of the Order of the Temple, that is, the Templars. All the roads of what was once the old Roman Empire were now frequented by these medieval knights, who ensured protection for travelers between East and West. Due to the instability of the region and the thieves that preyed on travelers, the Templars created an economic security system based on checks. The travelers, instead of taking their wealth with them, had papers authorized by the Templars for the value of their wealth that they could exchange for food and lodging, and even collect the value of their goods when they arrived at their destination. That is, they created the first banks. They grew so economically due to this system of loans that they had even lent money to the King of France himself. The Vatican Kingdom, whose power at that time was based in Avignon, France, he felt threatened by the growing power of this group, and together with the king they decided to send to persecute them. They gathered them all together, and on Friday the 13th they executed them publicly. From that moment, the Templars are a legend. But what made this fact more popular was the curse of the Templar master, Jacques de Molay, who, years later, after being imprisoned, in memory of that fateful Friday the 13th, condemned the Pope and the King to die in less than a year, and 13 generations more from them. So it was that same year, both the Pope and the King died. What was popularly taken as the curse of Friday the 13th related to heretics, witches, and many others who cursed the ecclesiastical and monarchical state. Me. In other words, it was a tragic day, but it turned out to be a seed for the liberation of the people. In other words, it could almost be a day of good democratic omen, right? I am, well, yes. All the traditions that many hold today are born from a negative vision of the world on the part of the Church and the monarchy. Me. The other day I read a comment that said we are working for the satanic religion, and it gave all its explanations that the world belongs to the devil because the atoms of life have a base of 6 particles, so our composition is 666, and that by worshipping matter and the earth we are worshipping the devil, and that we surely work for religion. He had never read so much inconsistency together because he said that we are religious when his arguments used all the same discourses of Christianity. I am. It's a matter of habit. Europe has been Christian for about 1700 years, which made the world Christian during colonialism 500 years ago. We could say that 80% of humanity has or had a Christian relative or ancestor, and therefore comes from a Christian tradition or religious background. This is not just something religious, because religion adapts to the cultural and becomes tradition. Like the people who celebrate Christmas, Easter, the 3 wise men, and don't believe any of that. Me. We live in a futuristic world with medieval traditions. I am. Smells rancid, doesn't it? Me. Quite. I am. Does it bother you then? Me. Well, I have to confess that yes, the hypocrisy of a humanity that criticizes using the same tools that criticize bothers me. Like what I said, being anti-religious but believing in evil and the devil, or talk about love and be one with everyone but say that religious or political leaders must be eliminated, or those who seek harmony, freedom and spirituality outside of religions but blame and make enemies of the very enemies of religion that they deny, such as Freemasonry, the Illuminati, the reptilians. I mean, I don't know, no matter how much we evolve in the forms, the essence is still the same. Everything still smells old. I am. Rancid. Me. Yes. I am. Do you know what word comes from stale? Me. Which one? I am. Grudge. Me. Why is that? I am. Resentment comes from the word rancere and refers to smelling bad, something that is old, past, and that begins to generate an uncomfortable, rotten smell. Latin writers have coined the concept grudge to refer to an idea or circumstance that smells bad, that smells of the past, old, and rotten. In English, the word resentment comes from Latin as well. Resentment means to feel again something that returns again and again, to be received by the senses, something old that is felt again. In this case, as specified in Spanish, through smell. Me. Smell, which is the sense related to the third eye. I am. Let's analyze. What my eyes see and my ears hear have the same information center, the nucleus of the brain, in the pineal and pituitary glands, but there is a third that goes directly to both glands, the sense of smell, the one that perceives the invisible. Remember that breathing, spirare, gives rise to the word spirit. Therefore, what the soul and spirit perceive is related to smell. This is how you call intuition having a good nose, or when you sense something negative, you suggest, "This smells bad." In the same way that when a plan seems promising, you reply, "It smells good to me." Smell is related to intuitive memory, and therefore the best way to treat emotions that bother the soul is through aromatherapy. When one gets sick, he usually loses his sense of smell and his lungs usually fail. Me, like now with COVID. I am. That indicates that the system has stopped and has lost the spiritual connection, the ability to perceive, and needs to regenerate again. When you don't smell anything, your spirit has been disconnected. You need strong smells to reawaken your sensory capacity and that your spirit reignites in you. Now, when you only smell ugly things, your brain is reminding you that there are rotten things around you. You must cleanse the environment of negative energy. It could be said that many environments are loaded with energetic resentment, which does not come from the human emotional plane, but from a vibrational density that must be transformed so that new airs flow better. Me. What about the grudge that every human knows? I have two of my best friends who boast that their grudge is the greatest of their virtues as well as flaws. Why would it be a virtue and why a defect? I am. As I said before, the center of the brain receives information from the words it hears and the situation it sees. Hearing and vision. Every person you interact with in life will send you signals, electrical pulses that will be registered by your brain, by the hypothalamus, in positive and negative signals. In this record, the data is converted into magnetic pulses that affect the chakras, and from them the hormones of the glands. This translates words and situations into emotions and feelings within our body. In this way, the brain already has more tools to identify people or circumstances and how to respond to similar situations. We've talked about this. It's to save time processing similar things. Thus, if a new, different person awakens a similar emotion in me, that's why sometimes when we meet someone, we usually say, he reminds me of that person. I am, exactly, and you will even begin to compare, to know if you should act in tune with what you feel or not. The mechanism that is activated to identify whether or not that is the same emotion is called smell. A sharp nose will not only smell aromas, but energies. The most emotional people have a greater sense of smell because they have a greater number of internal registers. Thus, smell allows us to foresee situations before they happen, reading, or rather smelling, the similarities with previous data in the environment. When what is going to happen tends to be negative, the sense of smell awakens the old smells that notify the sympathetic system from the parasympathetic system that it's necessary to react based on that old putrid smell, and thus resentment is awakened. Wow. I am. Resentment is the acuity of the olfactory system inside our brain that is capable of quickly identifying old, dirty, painful, annoying, and uncomfortable situations, awakening the memory of an elephant, remembering each situation, the how, the what, the why, the who, the where, all the data to the fundamental questions. Resentment is a useful system to prevent similar situations, to be alert and defend oneself from external dangers. But. I am. There is always a but. There is resentment as a method of prevention, and resentment as a way of life. I will put it in simple vocabulary. Rancor as a prevention method is the same as having sex with a condom, to take care of possible illnesses. Resentment as a way of life is considering that having sex is what makes you sick than dying a virgin. Clear example. I am. I imagined it. So what you're trying to say is that people who live through resentment are always looking suspiciously and smellily at everyone, refusing to establish contact with new people in case the same thing happens as before. It's like deciding exactly what you said, not having relationships of any kind with anyone else, because he considers everything a possible smelly reflection. I am. On the other hand, resentment used as a biological ability is the one that helps you not to trip over the same stone twice, to foresee situations, to be intuitive, but not closed to what will come. I realize now that many of the people closest to me are very spiteful, but precisely because I don't have a grudge and I need them. These people often tell me that sometimes it's even annoying to see that I don't learn the lesson and I always fall back on the same thing in relationships with people. Sometimes I thought that not holding grudges, that having the natural ability to forgive, made me a better person. But that is precisely what always brought me the same problems. When I learned to listen to my resentful close ones, I was able to forgive, but respecting and taking care of myself, knowing how to set limits. This made me lose friends, but I realized something important, that I gained freedom. I used to live for those friends, and they hurt me just as I hurt them, forcing through forgiveness and gratitude a bond that had to be released in order to grow. If it wasn't for the rancor of those close to him, he would never have understood. But nevertheless, I know that many of these spiteful people are also very close to new opportunities and live in situations of the past. I am. Everything in the universe is a tool. If life gives you a hammer, you must learn to drive nails, not to hit others on the head. Me. Of course, the problem isn't the hammer, it's what I do with it. So, resentment is the Scorpio sense of smell that is useful for working on the Piscean intuition and living in the Cancerian security. But if I cling to the past, resentment will become my worst enemy, preventing me from moving forward and transforming myself. I am. So, if life gives you lemons, me, make lemonade. I am. If life gives you grudges, me, make good perfume.